everyone, welcome back to a new video. So today I'm going to be doing a video all about how I filter my ideas. I wrote a blog post about this and thought I would do sort of like an accompanying video in case you prefer to listen to me talk rather than read. So yeah, today I'm just going to be talking through my process about how I sort of come up with ideas and filter those ideas for a photo shoot, writing, any sort of creative project really. I've been doing quite a lot of projects at college recently. If you've watched the vlogs then you'll know all about that. So yeah, I just kind of wanted to run you through the sort of like the beginning of my creative process, because I know I like hearing about other people's creative processes, and I feel like mine might be slightly different because I'm autistic, so I think a little bit differently. So the first thing I do whenever I'm presenting with a topic or project or anything is I do a brain dump. I just find this is the most effective way to get all my ideas out on paper, because I don't know about anyone else, but when I'm presented with a topic, then immediately my brain goes into overdrive and I've got all these different ideas and they're all bouncing around and then I'm getting confused. So I just have to get them all out on paper, and then half of them turn out to be a load of rubbish and then half of them are actually pretty decent, but you know, some of them aren't always suitable, so I just need to sort of get them out so that I can feel sane again before I actually then look at my ideas. So the first thing I always start with is a brain dump. After I've done said brain dump, I then sometimes, depending on the project, I will then categorize the brain dump. Sometimes it's just one project, so I don't really need to categorize it, but in the case of the project that I sort of filmed for you to overlay this video, I did need to categorize it because this project is its final major project, and so we have lots of different topics, so you know, I sort of had to fit them into those topics and see which ones would work and which ones wouldn't. So I find this really valuable so that I sort of know what is leading where and what is basically, so that it makes sense. Because otherwise you get ideas that are completely wild next to like, oh, I'm gonna make a cube out of photos, you know, which doesn't really make sense. So you kind of have to categorize them. Sometimes like I'll categorize them differently depending on what topic I'm doing. So in the case of final major project, I categorize them in terms of the topics. But sometimes I'll categorize them in terms of like difficulty level and things. So like, you know, if there's really easy ones, like yeah, I can definitely do that just like in 5 minutes, then you know, I'll put that in that column. Or if it's like, you know, this is a project but it's still perfectly doable at my level, or then I really want to do this but it's outside of sort of my resource limit at the moment, so I'll sort of categorize them so that I kind of, you know what I'm doing basically. Once I've sorted out my brain dump, I then think the next most important thing I do is I then have to relook at the brief, because I think quite a lot of creative people do this, but I especially do this. Whenever I'm given a brief or something, we obviously get a prompt or a topic or something, and I just run with the idea. And I have all these cool, crazy ideas that I really want to do, but then, you know, and like it sort of gets out of hand and I'm like, oh, we could like, you know, fly to Spain and things, but you know, obviously that's like not really realistic within the time limit, which is also something that's really important, but I will get back to that in a minute. So yeah, essentially I just then have to relook at the brief and go, okay, I've got all these really cool ideas, but do they actually fit with what I've been asked to do? Because half the time the answer is no, because, you know, yes, the ideas are really cool, but that's not what they're asking of me. A lot of the time I'll also have to say that, yes, actually this idea does fit the brief, however, realistically, I can't do it, whether it's because I don't have the time, you know, some things they just take too long, and you know, if I only have 3 weeks to do a little project, then I can't really do a really extravagant photo shoot or anything, because you know, it takes organising, obviously you have to contact people to arrange it, and then that's the other thing, obviously I'm only 17 at the moment, and so there are like, I'm limited in the resources I have, you know, my entire life is in my bedroom still, I don't have my own studio, you know, I don't have the money to pay for models, I don't have enough friends to model for me, because you know, if you're talking about doing like a 10-15 person shoot, like I don't think anyone has that many friends, or maybe they do, I'm just a bit of an introvert. Actually, I'm a lot of an introvert, but that's another discussion. So, you know, you do have to be realistic with what you can do, which sucks sometimes, because, you know, I've had some really cool ideas and I'm like, I really, really want to do them, but sometimes you just kind of have to take a step back and go, okay, that is a really cool idea, but realistically, you can't do that, you know, like, you can't do a world tour to do a project in 3 weeks, because, you know, you haven't got the resources, you haven't got the time, I'm underage, so I can't really do that. So, you know, you kind of have to be realistic, and yes, it sucks that you can't do some things, but I don't write those ideas off, I just table them to one side. I have a whole book dedicated to cool ideas that I haven't been able to do yet because of one reason or another. So then in the future, when you do have those resources, you can come back to them and do the cool crazy ideas that you had when you were younger. So once I've actually, determined what is and isn't realistic and what does actually fit the brief, I then have to decide between those few ideas that I've got that do fit the brief, I can do realistically in the time and with the resources I've got. I then have to choose my favourite to obviously actually do. Now, oftentimes I get a bit carried away and I'll just do all of them because I do work very quickly. I work probably 2 or 3 times faster than most people do, at least in my current age range in my class. So I do usually have time to do, if not all of them, quite a few of them. But for the sake of this video, we'll just say choose one. So yeah, you do just have to pick one, which can be quite hard because, you've got all these cool fun ideas and you want to do all of them, but you have to realise that at the moment, especially when you're in education, you kind of just have to pick the one that's going to get you the marks, which can be really tough because I did art GCSE and I really struggled with that because I really, I wanted to, do my own art, but then they were like, no, you have to mix mediums and you have to, draw this in ink, and I was like, no, I don't want to do that because I just like pencil and pen drawings. I don't really like, painting and stuff because I'm not really a very colourful person, as you might be able to tell from my very black wardrobe. Although I do have colourful hair, but that's the only way colour is allowed in my life. So, I really struggled with the idea of them, sort of dictating what I could and couldn't do with my ideas. So the way I got around that was that I did what they wanted me to do to get the marks, and then I redid it separately later so that I could still have my own version and still be sort of creatively fulfilled. So obviously you're not always going to have time to do that, so sometimes you will have to still just table the idea for later. But I think obviously if you're not in education then you don't necessarily have to do that, but even in the real world when you're working for someone, you might have to make compromises and sort of give up a little bit of your creative freedom in order to fit the brief, which sucks but sometimes you have to do it. Once I have officially decided on the idea I'm doing though, the first thing I do is I go straight to Pinterest and I find some images and inspiration to mood board it. I'm a very visual person, and so I find it essential to the creative process to have some sort of visual representation of the vibe, the aesthetic, just the sort of thing I'm going for. I always head straight to Pinterest whenever I'm doing mood boards. I just find Pinterest is the best place to go because, Instagram hashtags, they get spammed with things and it's just not as concise and clear as Pinterest is. And also I can then create a nice Pinterest board for the project I'm doing. That also means that, everything's in one place, and if I need some inspiration I can just go straight back to the board. Sometimes I will print out the images and do a physical mood board, sometimes I won't. It depends what sort of project I'm doing. So for example, when I did my Unit 6 at college, that was 3D, and so we were just taking photos and applying them onto a 3D sort of structure, so doing sculptures and things, which doesn't really lend itself to a physical printed out mood board. My board on Pinterest for that was more just sort of ideas that other sculptors had done, examples and things, but it wasn't really a vibe or an aesthetic. Whereas I say the printed out mood boards for things like narrative, that was obviously storytelling, fantasy. I did a portrait unit, and so I had to plan each portrait shoot and what elements I wanted in each shoot, and so I did a physical mood board for that, because then I can sort of visualise the sort of aesthetic I'm going for in that shoot. Whereas obviously for Unit 6, for 3D, I wasn't really shooting, I was just applying that image onto something physical, so it didn't really lend itself to a physical mood board. I would often use the mood boards as a sort of place to plan equipment and props, locations and things as well. Because I don't know, I just kind of like to have it all in one place rather than scattered over 3 or 4 notebooks. So I'll stick the pictures down, I'll make it look pretty, washi tape, doodles, things like that, but then I'll have equipment lists. So obviously the basics are camera, tripod, spare battery, etc, etc, but then I'll have props, so what outfit am I going to wear, makeup, hair, whether I actually need any physical props. I usually do lighting planning separately because that's a little bit more technical and doesn't really look that good in mood boards. I'll often do location planning and things in my mood boards as well, because it sort of just helps me bring everything together in my head and fit all of the puzzle pieces that go into doing a photo shoot or doing a project into one big thing in my head, rather than just having it all little bits split up and, you know, they're not really linking. Once I've done that, it's kind of just time to get on with the project. So those are all my steps for filtering my ideas and coming up with the ideas. Obviously this is only one small part of the creative process. There's a lot more to it as well that goes on during obviously the project and then after, evaluating and everything. So if you'd be interested in seeing me do a video or a blog post on sort of like the rest of my creative process, then do let me know. If you want to know sort of like how I come up with ideas and things, then I'd be happy to do a video, blog post, both on those. And if you're interested in sort of finding out more about the project that I was planning in this video for the overlays and things, then if you subscribe, then I will be doing many vlogs on it in coming weeks, because this is a really big project, because this is my final major project. I'm very excited about it. I don't want to spoil too much of the surprise because it is going to be quite big, and I kind of want, you know, like nothing's finalised yet, so I kind of want to save it till there's more concrete plans in place. But yeah, I am really excited about this project, and I think it's going to be super fun. So if you're interested in sort of following me on my journey through this project, then subscribe and you can come along for the ride. I do weekly vlogs, and I also have several other videos planned over the coming weeks. So yeah, subscribe if you want to see more of my life and my creative process and all of the other stuff that goes on in between. You can read the blog post that goes with this video down below if you want. I do have two blogs. I have a book blog and a photography blog. So if you're interested in either of those things, then you can go and check those out. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed this little insight into my creative process. Like it if you did, and I will see you in the next video.